This is so cool to be here and finally come face to face. Anyway, I am very interested.
It's nice to have a face. We are, for the most part, faceless. Not unhappy in that.
I think the thing that I am wanting most is well-being. And I teach at an alternative high school, which is very, very different from a regular high school setting. And
how so?
A lot of our students have not succeeded in the regular high school area. They are with us because of choices they have made that have not always been the best choices, because of sometimes circumstances beyond their control. Their world's been rocked totally.
When you say they are there because of choices they've made, don't you really mean someone else has made choices for them?
It could be. Sometimes they have made choices that has put them in probation.
We know that is the rhetoric. In other words, everyone's wanting to put the responsibility back on them. So they say, you're here for the choices that you've made. But we would like to say to you that those words are so irritating to those kids because they don't believe that they're there by their choice. They believe that they're there by somebody else's choice. Then to be told, it's wrong choices that you've made. In other words, you're here because of all of the bad choices that you've made. It is so disempowering.
We are the only school in our area that has a waiting list, however. They want to be in our school because it is very different from regular.
They do?
Well, they have a choice. Well, there we go.
If they don't want to be there, saying to us that these students are wanting to be there, then we would agree with you that you do have a high school that is different from any other.
The only one with a waiting list, yes. Yeah. Yes, I see your point. And I think the thing that I want to talk about, though, is that there is a lot of emotion that's very, very negative. And I am seeing that the best thing that I can do as a teacher there is to keep my vibration really high.
So what is their negative emotion telling you?
Their negative emotion is just coming from all aspects of their life.
But what is it telling you in light of what we're talking about
they're
here?
Very unhappy with
But what is negative emotion telling you? In other words, what pointed thing?
They're not allowing.
They're not right now in the receiving mode.
Right.
So when you see someone not in the receiving mode, what is your dominant desire? To do anything that you can think of doing to help them get into the receiving mode. Because nothing matters more than that they be in the receiving mode. That's life itself. If you saw someone strangling them, pinching them off from oxygen, you'd do your best to get their hands from around their neck. If you saw someone with a gushing wound, you'd put a tourniquet, you'd try to keep them from bleeding to death. And when you see someone with negative emotion, they've got themselves pinched off from life force. So what is your knee-jerk response? What would you, if you could do something, what would it be? Anything that would help them reconnect.
What I'm thinking that I need to do as a teacher is just to maintain my own vibration and be in a really joyful place.
Well, of course you have to do that, because if you're not connected to source energy, you have nothing to give. We are assuming that you are often there because of your powerful intent to be there. And so what we're saying to you is you have two choices. When you see someone dramatically not in the receiving mode, you have the choice of joining them not in the receiving mode.
Which does happen.
Or you have the choice of staying in the receiving mode and then doing whatever you can to help them get into the receiving mode. As we talk to a teacher or to an administrator or to anyone who is any part of society, the thing that we are wanting to impart is you cannot condemn people back into the receiving mode. You can't lecture them there. You can't corral them there. You can't sanction them there. You can't bomb them there. You're going about it in the wrong way. You can only love them back into the receiving mode. You can only appreciate them back into the receiving mode.
Which is what my question is about.
Yes.
How do I stay, for me, because I think this is the best way I can help them, how do I stay in that receiving mode consistently when I'm in this sea of negativity?
But you have to practice it when the sea is not so thick. We'll watch Esther as she watches television. She's particular about what she watches, but the stuff that they throw at you comes very fast, and sometimes right in the middle of something that you thought was positive, something that is negative will come. And her knee-jerk response is usually irritation. It's irritating to be drawn into something that you think is going to feel good and then be ambushed by something that does not feel so good. So if Esther were asking us the question that you're asking here, we would say to Esther, practice not letting the television get to you. Practice stepping back from it, finding a better feeling place, recognizing your choice, and looking for the good things in television. Now, there are some that would say, throw the television out the window. There's more negative in it than it's positive. And we say, there is more negative in it that's positive, but even if it were 99% negative and only 1% positive, we would not throw it out the window. We would become a selective sifter that was able to receive the 1% that is positive from it. And of course, there's far more positive there than that. And so, once you've decided that you want to feel good, once you decide that that is so important to you, you want to be in the receiving mode yourself, not only so that you can assist others, but because being in the receiving mode is the most natural thing to you. And so as you practice it with your television, or you practice it with a relative that you don't see very often, in other words, there are things that make you feel negative every time you think about them. And some would say, well, then just don't think about them. And we would say you would be doing yourself even a greater service by getting to the place that you can address them without going to that negative place. You get to the place where your society no longer frightens you because you have discovered a way to maintain your balance no matter what your society is doing. In other words, you want to get to the place where you're no longer wincing and ducking from what it might offer you because you're so stable that nothing really matters. You get to this place where you're so secure in your connection with source energy that you're not in that protective state. And we think that that is what is most essential for a productive, effective mentor or teacher of any kind. You have to get over that feeling of having to protect yourself, because when you have that feeling of having to protect yourself, then your knee-jerk response is to condemn anything that might keep you or take you from your state of well-being. That's why Esther is irritated with the television, because it's taking her to a not good feeling place. And we think that's the reason that any of you feel uncomfortable with anything. It's taking you from your good feeling place into a not so good feeling place. But then you begin to approach life in a way that doesn't work. You say things like, we need to clean up this mess so that we can feel better when we look over there. But you don't have that measure of control. You don't even have the right to clean up their messes. You don't have the right to go into other countries and dictate the way they live. You don't have the right to go into other people's homes and dictate the way they live. You only have the right in that band of vibrational difference between where you are and what you desire. And when you control your band, the rest of the world becomes your creative play place. But until you do, then you are in that uncomfortable place that so many humans are, where you need to demand things to be different so that you can feel good.
Very often I feel like I'm just getting dragged down, though, by the energy around me, and I don't want...
That's exactly what we're talking about here.
I don't know if it's condemning. Is it really condemning?
We wouldn't use the word condemnation, but we would use the word protection or the word fear of not maintaining my connection. We would say it's part of that vulnerable feeling. Most of the enforcement in your society and others comes under the guise of protecting someone from someone. Your policemen say that they're there to protect you, and yet so many of your citizens are beginning to feel that children are more afraid of policemen than they are of criminals. If you could take a vibrational poll of your nation, not only children, adults too, that more of you are afraid of the power that purports to protect you than of those that you think that you are being protected from. The whole thing has gotten all out of balance, but as an individual you can bring yourself back into balance by reaching for thoughts that feel good.
2,000 times a day, right?
2,000 times a day for the first few days, but it will not be anything like that in 30 days from now. You'll find yourself feeling so secure that you will begin saying things like, I cannot remember the last time I saw a traffic accident. I can't remember the last time I saw anyone wielding a gun. I cannot remember the last time I saw anyone mistreating anyone. I cannot remember, except for a few glimpses on television. It feels to me like the world is a pretty good place to live. It seems to me that wherever I look, I'm seeing people living in well-being.
As I'm feeling those things, it's going to bubble out to my students, right? I mean, they're going to...
Yes, because what you will provide as an example, not only law of attraction, because you will be matched up with more of them, but because of the situation that you are choosing. In other words, you're choosing to teach. It's sort of like the difference between you wake up on a Saturday morning and you're all tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and you just feel wonderful. And your impulse is to take a 26-mile walk to Idaho up this wonderful path. And you do, as opposed to waking up and remembering, oh yeah, it's the family reunion today. They're expecting me. I should go. So you follow your commitment rather than your inspiration, you see. And so what happens in time, as you reach for the thoughts that feel good and as you catch yourself doing that thing that you do, before you know it, you're almost completely guided by your inspiration. And when you are completely guided by your inspiration, you never match up with anything that is not a vibrational match. But in a teaching situation, it's sort of like making the commitment to going to the family reunion. You're saying, no matter what, I'm here, and I know that this is a pool that has a lot of everything within it, and I'm committed to be here. And so under those situations, you have to work diligently to hold yourself in vibrational harmony with source energy. If you would allow yourself to be guided by your inspiration, the effort factor in holding yourself in a place of well-being becomes almost non-existent for this reason. You make the effort at first, 2,000 times as we say. You find the better feeling place, your point of attraction shifts, things around you get better, it gets easier for you to observe good things because you're attracting more good things. From that position, you identify more things that you want, the universe yields them to you. It gets easier and easier and easier and easier because law of attraction is cooperating with you. But when you make decisions that are outside law of attraction, where you say, I'm committed to making the world a better place through this service, now you are walking into situations that law of attraction would not take you. That's the difference between going to the family reunion that you feel committed to and taking the walk that you feel inspired to. Now, we're not suggesting to you that you should not commit to things. We're just explaining to you that when you commit to things that are potentially going to take you from your connection, then you have to work harder at maintaining your connection. It becomes a bigger and bigger issue. There are people all over this planet that are not in the mode of service, that are by world standards not making the world a better place. In other words, they're not contributors to funds that uplift. They're just out having a rip-roaring good time. They are following their own bliss, and they are a better example of connection to source energy than many virtuous zealots who are out there trying to fix trouble spots, you see. What we're doing here is a little bit of a sales job. We want you to leave all idea of service and all martyrdom and all paying a price and all struggle behind. And we want you to start playing your way, waltzing your way, dancing your way, laughing your way into uplifting. We think the system has become so serious that children, and they still are, even in high school, are not allowing themselves or not being allowed by others to play.
I believe that.
Very often, Jerry and Esther will talk about friends. They've had so many friends through years. And some of them they've lost contact with, and some of them they still are interacting with. And Esther will say, I miss John. He was so much fun. Don't you think back of those that were so much fun? We don't know of anything that can be more conducive to connection than to just be so much fun. That's the route we would take. We would just be so much fun. We would not be one of those serious-minded, I'm worried about you kind of mentors. We would be a playful, everything's going to be all right, it doesn't really matter, the world is laid out before you, I see bright sunny skies ahead of you, there is so much wonder that is within you, you're not giving me in this moment one reason to worry about you. Even if there are endless reasons to worry, we would get so oriented toward the well-being that we would be light and playful, we would dance our way to work. So much so that 60 Minutes would interview you and say, you're known as the most fun one around. How do you maintain your fun balance in this sea of disgusting things that are going on at school? And you would say, I don't see that. I've practiced not seeing that. I do not believe that you can lead someone into the light when you are in the dark.